From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Do you need something refreshing in the morning? When you wake up, help yourself to a bowl of Pod Therapy. It's got the healthy balance of vitamins and minerals that your moms demand, and that great taste that your kids love. Now with an extra scoop of Jacob to help keep you regular.
Yeah, your mom demands it.
Yeah! And now broadcasting from the churn. That guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Right. Mom
You can't
tested.
just say that and expect me to not say anything.
Mom approved.
High in fiber.
Yeah. Mom, who's this guy at our kitchen? Oh, that's Jacob.
That's Jacob.
Hello.
He's for the fiber. He's here to keep me regular.
Well, it's funny because I did what is that show? The Who Scoops podcast.
Yeah.
And we were kind of talking about that, and that he was listening to the show, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, like Jacob said something. He's like, oh, that's Jacob.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was
the
like,
day he realized Jacob was
oh
magically
yeah, then
on Pod
I
Therapy.
thought about it. I was like, yeah, we've never really introduced him. We just we just kind of assume that if people just know he's there.
Yeah.
We've never said anything.
Since our show has been absorbed into the Scoop universe, they all know who he is.
Yeah.
We've never actually stopped to say, hey, guys, this is Jacob.
No, we never have. We've never, ever said anything.
That's really
I think we
funny.
should keep it that way, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, let's
Perfectly happy with
Let's
that.
run with this. There's like the one guy that we've had from the beginning. And
fact,
he's like, I
edit
don't
this
know who
out.
that Jacob guy is. I like him, though. And my mom asked me that once. She's like,
Yeah.
why is the word scoop in so many people's names? I was like, it's trending right now, Mom. You don't know about that?
It's true.
It's always scoop. It's this whole, like, just affirmation movement.
Right.
So,
Who are you guys talking about? That chair's empty.
yeah, there is. He's just in the wires at this point. So,
And we have Ellie O'Dare here.
Ellie's here. This is a back-to-back recording, so we're actually recording this in the past. It is actually September 1st in real time whenever we're recording this.
Yeah, we're recording this because I'm going to be in Nolans.
Nolans? Are you going to Nolans? That's cool, man.
So that's
Are you
where I
going
will
to get
be.
some beads?
Yep,
That's
hopefully.
their chief export. Just walk around getting beads.
That's my plan. So, for an A block today, this actually kind of came about because Laura and I recorded an Afterthoughts episode, which hopefully is
Afterthoughts.
which is going to be airing, or hopefully will be airing before this.
Wow, that thing's been on hiatus for a while.
we
That's
figured,
pretty
yeah, it's
exciting.
almost like 8 months.
People
so
are
we
like,
haven't
what the hell are you guys
Yeah.
talking about? If there's one thing we're consistent at, it's being inconsistent with the Patreons.
Yeah. Well, actually, the whole thing came about because our therapy producer, Ben, who I graduated with, high school.
Oh, yeah.
So we went back to our high school reunion together. And he straight up confronted us about it. He's
like,
hey,
where the hell's
where's
Afterthoughts?
Afterthoughts?
I financed the show. I'm not
Yeah.
getting any afterthoughts.
What is Afterthoughts?
So, Afterthoughts is a Patreon only.
Look at Ellie keeping your asses in line.
I legit don't
What are
know.
you talking
I haven't-
It's
been
because
listening
it has been that long since we've done it.
I love it.
My girlfriend Laura and I do a Patreon only version podcast called Afterthoughts, which is usually her taking up with questions or something that we talk about in the show that maybe we didn't really address very well, or she just kind of has questions about, so we go into more detail. That's kind of how that all
That's
started.
it.
But then she stopped listening to the podcast, so I don't really know.
Afterthoughts began.
No one can blame her for that.
Yeah, Afterthoughts began as a 30-minute dissection of everything Jim said wrong in whatever last episode happened. And eventually
Those
evolved
were the glory
to them
days.
talking about their dating life. And then
shit, you got
it just
through
went
that-
away.
You got through all of that in 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, she would just unfold a piece of paper. She'd be like, all right, number one.
It was mostly just reading off bullet points.
Yes, at some point somebody reached out to us on the Patreon and was like, hey, would it be cool to create, is it called a wiki?
Yeah.
A wiki of the show?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where it's like an encyclopedia of everything that's ever happened on the show. And I was like, please, for the love of God, don't do that. Like, the fact that this show is not searchable by content right now is probably keeping me a license. So let's keep it that way. Don't make it easier to bust Jim, please.
Right.
Or at least clean my stuff up.
So one of the things that we ended up talking about in Afterthoughts was how to maintain motivation.
Yes.
So I thought, hey, that actually would be kind of interesting to do as kind of an A block to kind of talk about motivation, right? So basically, I just put together 8 bullet points that that I use that kind of help me stay motivated.
So how do bullet points help people stay motivated? And why 8? This seems arbitrary.
Because it's all I was able to write down before having to drive here to record the podcast.
I see. So it isn't that the bullet points themselves are what's motivating. Oh, okay.
It's these are the things, the 8 most important things. And this is for me.
Okay.
But it's bits of information that I've gathered from a whole bunch of different sources.
Okay.
Okay. So, first one is going to be very obvious. You have to have a vision. There has to be some kind of a clear vision, some kind of a goal that you have to be searching for. So it's not just important enough to say, I want to get a degree in this.
You have to have a vision of yourself doing that.
Yeah, actual vision, be able to see yourself doing it, but also if you have a role model, you have somebody that you're working towards, somebody who's already completed that, and then that's kind of your image, right? And that's kind of what you're working towards.
It's kind of like a dream board. Have you ever seen those where people like construct sort of a visual representation of where they want to go?
Yeah.
You know that there's a Bible verse that actually backs you up on this.
So anyway, number 2. So the second one,
it's a good Bible verse. It's beautiful.
For
want of a vision, the people perish. It's just to remind people that vision's important.
Sure, I guess we can pick one verse out of an entire book and make it sound good.
It's a pretty verse.
All right.
It's, sometimes it has a nice ring to it. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's
Right.
fortune
I
cookie
suspect
good.
it was just endorsing eyeglasses.
That's also, by the way, 2020 is going to be a huge year for optometry. They're going to kill it. Like every commercial is going to be for that. Lens crafters.
Second point, change the relationship that you have with hardship.
Ah.
Okay, this one's really important. So take a look at what meaning you give hardship. What does it mean to you when things get difficult and you're struggling? When you're starting to say stuff like, I'm failing, or I can't do this, or I'm weak. We have to be able to change what hardship actually means to you, right? So kind of going back to CBT, how we're changing the meaning of an event that's going to help us work through it, right?
I was so glad when that got legalized.
CBT.
Yeah.
Finally, we can do therapy.
You no longer need a subscription or prescription for it.
That's right.
Nice. But changing the meaning to something that's going to help you push through. I mean, looking at this is just resistance. I'm going to push through this.
That's one of your famous ones.
Right. Or after overcoming this, I will be prepared for blank.
Or it isn't that I failed. It's that I'm learning. Like I bumped this part of the maze and didn't break through. Great. I'm navigating this problem.
Absolutely, everybody needs to change the relationship they have with failure, right? And what failure actually means.
I have an on-again, off-again relationship with failure.
The whole point of growth is through failure.
Oh! These are good points, Nick. They're just, these are solid. But I agree with you. No, change the relationship to failure. I think it's something you and I would call it reframing. Right. But helping people understand that failing or hardship itself is not your enemy. It doesn't. It means nothing. There is no meaning.
Ultimately, failing is the goal.
Go
in a
on.
sense. Well, okay. So, like for example, like if you're weightlifting,
yes,
you're pushing yourself to failure.
Oh, okay.
Right?
To the point you can't continue.
You have to because that's your boundary, right?
Right.
And you have to continually push yourself to that boundary.
Okay.
And then as you continue, your boundary gets further and further away.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, like the reach exceed your grasp kind of thing.
Exactly.
Oh, very good.
Right. So number 3, act before you have the chance to talk yourself out of it. Take action.
I could see this one going wrong.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This I'm actually kind of borrowing from Mel Robbins, who wrote this book called The 5-Second Rule.
Mel, yeah,
big fan of the show.
Big guy, yeah, love him.
Woman,
but she hates when I do that.
Yeah, okay. So Jim has no idea what we're talking about.
Mel and I have a lot of inside jokes.
The 5-Second Rule was basically this book that she wrote, where she kind of talks about in her theory that the mind is meant to protect you from doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
In a sense. So it's innately wired to stop you.
Oh,
right.
To give you caution.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So if you're about to do something, it's wired to no, wait, don't do that.
So if you
don't
feel
do that,
hesitation,
right?
don't take that too seriously.
Right.
That's a natural.
So this hesitation, it works. It can work against us for things like I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. this morning and I'm going to go for a run. Right.
Oh.
And then you wake up. the longer you sit there and think about that,
Think about it.
Your brain is naturally wired to talk you out of doing it, not to talk you into doing it.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So she came up with this 5-second rule. Which basically is like a countdown. When you have that thought, I'm going to go do this today, where your alarm clock goes off, you start counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, because by the time you get to 1, if your feet aren't on the floor and you're out of bed,
you won't do it.
You're not going to do it.
Interesting.
So you have to act within those first
to get
5
that
seconds.
momentum before. Another thing I've heard kind of going along with that is that phrase analysis paralysis. Sometimes people will talk about like, don't overanalyze this thing. Trust your gut sometimes. You do know it's a good choice. You know that there's no obvious reason not to do this.
Right.
Do it. Now, obviously, I don't think that your advice on this would, extend to things like jumping out of an airplane or like doing anything obviously self-destructive. Like, I'm just going to go tell my boss, where you can stick it. And it's like, 1, 2, no, stop. Like, there are times that you've evolved the ability to have reluctance to keep the organism alive. There are times when that's what it's for. Is so that you don't impulsively do something stupid. But I think in our complicated social structure of goal setting and achievement, you're right, that you do have to overcome that evolutionary response rather than succumbing to it.
Number 4, you're going to like.
Okay.
Chunking.
I love chunking. Let me tell you.
Again, I get the sense that you don't know what we're talking about.
I go through so many pumpkins, though.
Tons of them. I'm glad to hear it's a recipe for success. It's such a fun thing.
It's like the programming term.
Chunking?
Breaking stuff up into manageable chunks.
There you go.
Ellie's
Nailed it.
Right. Yeah, you're pretty good at this. Or the pumpkin thing, to each their own.
So chunking, being able to, if you've got a huge task ahead of you, you're going to talk yourself out of it because it looks unmanageable, right?
Right.
But you talk about chunking where you're going to be like, oh, I'm just going to do this one piece, right? I just have to do this one thing right now. That's all I'm going to worry about. I've got this huge 140-page paper I have to write at the end of the semester. But right now, I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to write one page.
So manageable slices of a larger project.
Exactly.
Or as the Bible says, how to eat a whale one bite at a time.
No.
That's from the word. I believe it was in Leviticus.
Of course it was in Leviticus.
Don't
get me started on Leviticus. All right, number 5. This one I really like.
Yes.
Calling it burn the boat. Okay.
These are just terrible pieces of advice.
Shut up.
Alexander the Great.
If you are...
Alexander the Great.
I believe it was Cortez. Wasn't it Cortez? Did Alexander
Do you know what the story, though?
About Cortez?
No.
Alexander
about where
the
this
Great?
is coming from. This idea that if you're an army and you are going to conquer this land, burn your boat.
Oh, right.
Right?
Leave no escape plan.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. You can't leave your mind some kind of escape route in order to get into it. If you are committed to doing this, and this is the thing that you have decided that this is your mission, this is your purpose in life, if you're going to do it, you have to burn the boat.
Yes.
You have to give yourself no escape. There's no way out but through. Right?
I like that. Okay. Failure is not an option, as the Bible says.
This next one... I'm borrowing from David Goggins. David Goggins, sorry.
As the Bible says.
Yeah, as the Bible says. So he's got a lot of stuff on YouTube. He's the only armed service member to complete SEAL training, Army Ranger School, and Air Force Tactical Air Control training. He's completed Hell Week 3 times. He at one point had the record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours, which was 4,030.
He's got a book called Can't Hurt Me.
Something like that, yeah. And so he's got one thing that he says, let mediocrity think that it's won.
Okay.
So when he's talking about, this kind of goes back into like the chunking a little bit, but when you just don't want to do something, to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm only going to do this little piece of it just to get you started.
Do that piece.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you do that piece, and then once you're in there, then that's when you push yourself. Right. Then that's when you go like, okay, well, I'm already here. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing this.
I love that. I think I've used that in my life, and I've encouraged people not to think about where they want to be in 10 years. Just think about like 1 year. And and when you get to that, reassess. And if you decide, I'm going to keep going, then go. And if not, you're good. But at least you had an accomplishing year. That's fascinating.
Right. And we use this in recovery a lot too. It's like you don't have to stay sober for the next 24 hours. You just need to stay sober for the next hour.
Yeah. We have people all the time that are like, I want to quit drinking, but I can't imagine that I can do this for 30 years. And we usually stop them right there and go, how about 30 minutes? Let's start with that. And they're like, well, yeah, I don't want to drink in the next hour. Okay, great. Let's just do that.
Yep.
right? And then in a day, we'll pick it up. In a year, let's pick it up. Like, we'll figure out what you want to do long term. Let's just do a good year.
Yep. Number 7, he talks also about creating your cookie jar.
Okay.
So the cookie jar, as he calls it, is accomplishments that he's proud of, right? So when he starts getting into this negative mindset and he feels like he can't do something, he goes into his cookie jar. And in that cookie jar, he pulls something out. It's like, yeah, I completed Hell Week 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's like a little
that's right.
accomplishments bank.
I am a badass.
Right.
I can do this. Puts
Right.
that back in the jar, and then you keep going.
Okay.
Right? So you've got your little bag that you will go to, that you constantly pull things out as kind of a reminder to you of the successes that you've already had and all the things that you can build off of.
That's it's interesting too, because one of the things I'll say to my patients is, as their therapist, sometimes I'm a historian. And my goal sometimes, if I get to work with them long term, is to help them remember some of the things they've already accomplished, some of the challenges they've already met, and the successes they've already had, especially in a moment where they're really struggling. That way they can remember, hey, there's this larger story that you've been living, and here's all the things you've already done. Bring that success to bear on the current challenge and be encouraged. I think that's really true.
Yeah, and we know from research that positive self-talk has a big influence on outcomes. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's few things that even matter as much.
Right. And number 8, establish some consequences. Okay. So establish some consequences for yourself of not following through with what you said you're going to do.
Okay.
So there's this experiment that was done where teachers were split into 2 groups. One group was offered a $4,000 bonus if their students' grades improved. And the second group was actually given $4,000.
Yep.
And along with that, the threat that if the students' grades didn't improve, they had to give the money back.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart.
Which group do you think did better?
Yes.
The one that got the money, but were told they had to give it back if the students didn't.
You know what?
Right.
I didn't mean to do this, but I did this with my son this weekend because I'm trying to get my kids to do chores, and my son is 9. And so, sometimes he wants money, and then he'll come to me and be like, Dad, what chores can I do to make some quick money? And I'm like, no, dude, that's not how this works. Like, you need to, consistently be doing chores or whatever. And so this weekend, I gave him $5. And he was like, what's this for? And I was like, for the chores that you're going to do. And he was like, wait, what chores? I'm like, well, I don't know, but I'll come up with them. And I was like, but if you fail to do them, I'm taking that money back. Right. And he was so sad. His face was so sad. And he's like, can I just not do this? Can I not opt into this program? I was like, sorry, bud, this is the deal. You're roped in.
I think it has something to do with just having that.
Yeah.
And knowing that because you
loss
already
aversion.
have it.
It's loss aversion.
Yeah.
Yes. That's so true. What is it? The stick is more motivating than the carrot. Because you could just be like, well, I don't have it now, so I guess I'll just make peace with not having achieved that. Whereas if you sort of reverse that, that'll motivate the hell out of you. That's such a smart way to do it.
So those are just some things that I've personally used in my life.
I love it.
As far as keeping myself motivated to do things. So
what was it like to use David Goggins? Is he nice?
Huh? Is he nice? No.
You said you were using these things in your life? No? Goggins? Not one of them?
What do you mean?
The man that you quoted from
no, I know who he is.
Okay.
I'm
Their
not sure
infants will be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses will be looted and their wives violated.
Also from the Bible.
That's Isaiah 13:9.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Motivating, isn't it? It's very motivating. You hear that and you're like, I am going to do those push-ups.
Exactly. So, all right. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss whatever our next letter. Oh, sorry, I'm doing that again. Hold on. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss Father in Transition. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Smitty Scoop. Smitty was born December 3rd, 1968, and is an American-Canadian actor best known for playing Rick O'Connell in the Mummy trilogy, as well as leading roles in comedy and fantasy films including Encino Man, The Scout, George of the Jungle, Bedazzled, Looney Tunes Back in Action, and Journey to the Center of the Earth. Smitty branched into dramatic cinema with roles in School Ties, Gods and Monsters, and The Quiet American. If you know who Smitty Scoop really is, you can come down to patreon.com/therapy, give us $1 and sign up to support the show. We love you back. That's, again, www.patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about a father in transition.
Hi, guys. It's crisis time in my household, so I thought I'd check in for your thoughts. There are various issues that revolve around my father, who's in his mid-70s. Dad is genius smart, but stubborn as heck, short-tempered, and starting to suffer from dementia. He is exactly like my grandfather was, and I always knew I'd eventually have to take over with things like financial decisions. But in my head, he would be fine one day and then not fine the next. In reality, he's currently in between the two phases. He's not so far gone that he thinks he has any issue, and there's not any one obvious example that we can point to. But we're starting to see him make some he wants to do what decisions. He gets very angry when anybody even brings it up. He clearly doesn't see that there's an issue. He won't let my mom know what investments they have or let her help with managing bills. The only reason she knows things, like who they have for an insurance, is because of the mail that comes in. I'd hate to wait until something major happens before we can convince him that he needs help. How do we transition him from a lifetime of being the smartest guy on the block to needing help balancing a checkbook? Thanks, his name is Scoop. Good question.
That's a very good question. And I think there's a couple different things with this. I think number one is everything that's written down in this this letter about what are some practical things that we can do to help this transition and to help him understand this. But then there's another part to this too, which the writer doesn't actually talk about, but I think is probably going on, which is his transition of seeing his father go through this transition.
Yeah.
And because that can be very difficult, right? I mean, especially for, us as little boys, like our dads are superheroes.
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, and then when you see that transition change and through adulthood, and you see somebody who's incredibly brilliant, somebody you've always looked up to, and then now all of this starts to happen with, whether it be dementia or Alzheimer's or any of these conditions, it's very difficult because it's completely changing your whole perspective, and it kind of calls into question everything going on. Like, if this is happening to this man, then what does this mean for X, Y, or Z, or all these other things that I just assumed were always going to be strong, were always going to be in place, and always going to be a foundation.
Yeah.
And when it rocks that foundation, it's a difficult transition to go through.
I think it is. And one of the things, writer, that I'm really glad you're bringing up, because I want everybody that's hearing this to really pay attention. Notice the difference between the way that we as a society think about dementia and Alzheimer's and what it really is. And the thing I want to point out is where the writer said, I kind of thought that it'd be like, hey, January, Dad's fine, and February, Dad's not. And he immediately sinks to the worst parts of dementia, and so, okay, I'm taking over, I'm going to take power of attorney, and, Dad is going to be taken care of. But what the writer's explaining is the very tricky and vague process that happens where this person is sharp and lucid is the word we tend to use, and then sometimes isn't, whether that's lapses in memory or lapses in judgment or the inability to sometimes recognize faces or people or repeating stories or the inability to make concrete decisions that are sort of in their own best interest. It is this patchwork kind of thing where there's not a clear starting point or stopping point. And so for anybody who's been thoughtful about this for their own parents or for their grandparents, I want you to learn from what the writer's talking about, because that is almost always exactly how Alzheimer's and dementia work. They are chronic, long-term illnesses that are degenerative. And so a person is not at their worst, at some kind of light switch moment. It is this fader kind of thing. And so above all else, I want folks to have heard that. Ideally, and I don't think that the writer's at this stage right now, but ideally for those listening, if you have a parent or grandparent who does receive that diagnosis, it's usually going to be originally because of some of these conspicuous symptom moments. Some labs say that we now have a blood test that can start to predict Alzheimer's. I don't believe that's at the clinical level yet. And so this is something that you're mostly going to have to witness in behaviors and mentalities and then take back to a professional and get the diagnosis. When the individual is diagnosed, that is the time to sit down and create a living will and a care plan that ultimately arrives at conclusions of when you are going to receive the powers to take care of them, such as power of attorney and the ability to make decisions for their health and for their finances. And then in that same agreement, they're allowed to stipulate certain conditions like, and I still want to be consulted, or I still want, or these are the things that are hard-nosed. You're not allowed to transfer my money into your kids' accounts, things like that. But that's the time to do it for precisely this reason, because there's this saying in dementia care, Alzheimer's care, and also, ironically, cancer care, where there's this thing called the last good day. And we don't know when the last good day is before things get to a tipping point and we no longer have the ability to care for ourselves. And so you just want to anticipate that, I think, as much as you can. That's vital to the process.
Yeah, I mean, as far as any kind of tips, that's a tough one. Any way of convincing somebody that they're not doing as well as they think they are.
I think it's very similar to drug and alcohol recovery. I think we're talking about pre-contemplation. Right. I think Dad is in a stage of pre-contemplation where he does not appreciate the severity of his disease, or he's at contemplation where he's aware of it, but he's not doing anything about it. And so I would almost want to approach this the same way we would a person who has addiction, which is a family intervention, sitting down from many points of light and trying to help the individual realize, with the presence of their doctor, with their wife, with their adult children in the room, with if they have a rabbi or somebody that's important to their life, or with their good friend, that harmony of voices saying, Bill, we love you, we respect you, you'll always be the man that we've known you to be, and this is a condition that you need to make peace with, and you need to allow a plan, or it's irresponsible. Mm-hmm. And that would be, I guess, my best pitch as far as a way that you could actually confront the problem.
And I think making being fine or comfortable with really, really, really small steps.
Yes.
I mean, as far as he doesn't have to, because I guess one thing that sticks out to me is how dangerous this situation is as far as financially not knowing, no one else has this information except for him.
Insurance
He's
policy,
the only one that has this.
making sure that gets paid.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so we have to be able to find some way that he's willing to concede small bits of information at a time.
Yes.
And whatever that looks like, there's always different ways that you can be kind of subtle about it and hey, let me help you with this, or let me help you do all these other things. Let me help you manage this. I'm not going to take it over. No, I don't want to take it over. You're doing a great job. You're doing awesome. Just let me help you.
Assist. Frame it as
yes.
I'm here to assist.
Let me just, even if it's just putting the stamp on the envelope for you.
Yeah.
Really small ways of getting involved, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways in which you can be creative with this and do things that are not confrontational, where you're not forcing him to give things up, because that's very humiliating for him.
It can be.
Yeah. And then if he's not good at managing emotions, then that humiliation is going to turn to anger ultimately.
Yeah.
People get angry. But there's different ways that you can kind of be creative and try to I don't want to say manipulate situations, but
get the result.
Right,
get the result
exactly.
that we want. And
there was actually an article in New York Times. This was 5 or 6 years ago, about creative strategies that this nursing home was taking for Alzheimer's patients, because they were having a lot of problem with them running away, and when you confront them, then sometimes it becomes violent, and they didn't want to. They didn't want to do that. So they had to come up with all these creative solutions. And one of the things that they did, they installed a bus stop in the front of the building.
Oh, so people would go wait at the bus stop.
Yeah, but it wasn't on a line. There was no bus coming.
Right.
Right. But they would go out there and they would sit and wait. They'd be like, I'm tired of this place. I'm
waiting
leaving.
For the bus.
Right.
Yep.
So then they go out and wait for the bus until they kind of forget why they're out there, and then they walk back in.
Sure.
Right. So they came up with all these different creative solutions that were not restricting or not going against. It's kind of like going with the flow, right? Kind of where they are going, where that condition is leading. They kind of go with it instead of trying to reroute the river. You kind of go with it and find all these different behaviors and quirks that they do, and we find a strategy that's going to fit within that.
And to that light, writer, I think my last point on this is practically the way that you deal with this is sometimes the simple case is the person is not willing to get ahead of the problem, and so that pushes you and other family members into a reactive position. So what do you do with that? If that's the cards that you're dealt, then the way that you kind of manage that is you ask your mom, hey, I need you to save every piece of mail. I want you to start going through this. If we have to pull things out of the trash, we're going to do that. We look for a filing system somewhere in the house. And then if and when the day comes when you need to exercise power of attorney, or she does, the first thing you want to do is you want to go do a credit report. Because by doing a credit report, you can find out anything that's outstanding, credit cards, interest, anything that's out there. And then you can usually start backward pedaling from there to get to things like insurance policies and whatever else needs to be figured out. Yeah. But it is a messy process. I mean, we're talking about reconstructing a person's entire paper trail when you don't necessarily have their support or their memory to do it. So you kind of have to get ahead of it now and start scavenger hunting it.
Yeah.
But confronting your father is a good idea too.
Small steps, be an ally.
Be an ally.
Yep.
Meet them on the way.
Yep.
But be prepared. And always, I think, get ahead of it as far as like maybe getting yourself a book. There's a really good book that you fill in. It's like a Last Will and Testament, but it's like a My Journey book or something like that. And it's for people in that stage where while lucid, they're supposed to sit down and write down, here's how I want my life managed. Here's conditions that I want certain decisions made in. Here's healthcare decisions, finance decisions. And then there's also spaces in there to write, here's my insurance policy, here's the code number, here's my bank account number. And they hand write it all in there.
Right.
And so you might not be able to get that from that person now, but buy the book. Because when the day comes where they have that bus stop moment where they're starting to lapse, but they're also going to snap back to lucidity, that's where you want to capture that. And my last thought is another trick from intervention work, don't be afraid to tape record them, especially in the age of phones. If they do start acting a little bit aloof, odd, they're not recognizing, that's where somebody wants to whip out a camera, tape that for the 30 seconds or a minute that it lasts, ask questions, get it on film. That way when they come back, you can show it to them and they can realize, oh my God, I didn't realize who you were. You're my child. And they go, yeah, Dad, listen, most of the time you're fine, but like, let's get ahead of this.
Right.
So that kind of proof is often very, very valuable.
Yeah.
Also, for what it's worth, some of the early signs of dementia can also be easily mistaken if the person's just losing their hearing.
Yes.
With my own grandfather,
yes.
We got an extra 10 years of lucidity out of him because he just didn't realize he was losing his hearing, and we got him some hearing aids.
Wow.
But we thought he was... We thought he was in the early stages of Alzheimer's, and now he just couldn't understand what anyone was saying.
Great observation. Wow. That's absolutely true. Wow. Yes. Now, in this case, obviously, there could be more complicated than that, but PSA to everybody. That's a great piece of point right there. I love it.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ryder. Thank you for writing in. I hope that helps, and keep us posted. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we discuss learning more about mental health. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Jake Schneider. Jake Schneider is handmade in Hawaii and is a bar of filthy-ass soap. Just so you know. Jake is 100% natural. They say that he's mighty stubborn, but show him the carrot and he'll always behave. Hi-oh! There you go. If you'd like to join Jake Schneider and sponsor the show and receive such respectable treatment, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about learning more about mental health.
So I think we're out of time because it's 2:00.
Yeah.
That's just Ellie. That's Ellie's out.
Oh, okay. Are you good?
I've got
for
like another 10, 15 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
We'll do a quick on the last one. So,
cool.
Ellie?
I'll duck out when I need to.
Okay, good. All right. Just in case that happens, I want to shake your hand.
Yes.
Okay. Go on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to read it.
What is the next question?
So organized.
In one of your episodes, you recommend... I'm leaving all this in, by the way. In one of your episodes, you recommended watching A Beautiful Mind to help understand schizophrenia. This was a great help to me to understand a friend of mine who has this. Is there any other movies or documentaries that you would recommend to help us understand people who have mental illness, as some diagnoses are unfamiliar to me? Thanks, Andrea.
So this is a really good question because I mostly tend to focus on movies that have a terrible portrayal.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
it's very rare that we see one that we're like, good job.
Yeah, usually if I see one, if I don't think about it, it's kind of like a ref at a basketball game.
Yes.
You know, if you don't notice they're there, they did a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of that way with movies for me. Like, obviously some terrible ones we've talked about before. Me, Myself, and Irene is terrible.
Yeah, that one's way off. But or like that new one that's like Split or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's about multiple. They always, anytime you see a movie that wants to make the person with mental illness out to be dangerous or a bad guy, is almost always factually flawed.
Yeah.
People that have some form of mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed by police officers, though they do not statistically represent any greater risk than any other member of the public. In fact, they often represent a lower risk because they're having trouble adjusting to the now, let alone plotting some kind of mass, demonstration.
They're far more likely to be the victim of crime than the perpetrator.
To be the perpetrator of it.
Right.
But one movie that does jump off at me, Nick, I don't know if you've seen this. Brad Cooper has 2 movies out that I've really admired the way it was portrayed, and one of them was the one with Lady Gaga, the one where he's a singer. Star is Born.
Star is Born.
A Star is Born. He plays a depressed alcoholic, and I thought it was portrayed so well. And he uses pills in the movie and alcohol, and he's got deep depression. Ultimately, suicide is a big factor, a big part of the story in the movie. And I thought he played that so perfect, and the difficulty of recovery and what a person's going through and how they're thinking. I thought that was a good movie that portrayed addiction. Another good movie, another Bradley Cooper movie, is Silver Linings Playbook. Mm-hmm. And in Silver Linings Playbook, part of the way they plotted that story is that multiple characters in the movie have some mild form of mental illness. Robert De Niro, I think, is in the movie as Brad's dad, and he has what looks to be something like OCD. And he kind of has like a challenge when it comes to football and sports and the way that he's thinking about things. That was well done. And then Brad Cooper's character has some stuff. And also, I forgot the leading actress's name, but she actually had a condition as well. So I thought that was really well portrayed. And they didn't do it in this hateful way or mean-spirited way.
Right. Well, guess what? Because NAMI, our friends over at NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, have actually put together their list of the best movies about mental health.
Ooh, okay.
So here they are. A Beautiful Mind. We've already talked about that.
Yep.
Matchstick Men.
Oh,
with,
Matchstick Men.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, they did a great job in Matchstick Men. I think in that movie he also has OCD.
Yeah, that's actually what they talk about. OCD, agoraphobia, panic attacks.
Oh, is as good as it gets on that list with Jack Nicholson?
No. It's kind of a funny story, 2010. I've never seen that one.
No, I haven't seen that one either.
Silver Linings Playbook is
Hey,
on here.
I called it.
Yep. The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, yeah, solid. And a good book.
Okay. The Skeleton Twins.
Oh, yeah, that's the one with the guy who plays Barry right now.
Bill Hader?
Yeah, Bill Hader, yeah.
Yep, and Kristen Wiig.
Yep, I haven't seen it, but
I haven't
say
seen
it's
it
a good
either.
movie.
Infinitely Polar Bear.
Nope, haven't seen that one.
Yep, me neither. Welcome to Me, 2015, Kristen Wiig.
Okay.
Borderline Personality Disorder.
Oh, wow, that's good.
That's, yeah. And Inside Out, 2015.
Oh, yeah, the kids movie.
Yes.
Yeah, Inside Out is a cartoon.
Oh,
about
yeah.
emotions.
Yeah,
Yeah, that actually it's really funny. There's a therapist in my office. Actually, it's Dr. Steelman. Dr. Steelman has tons of Inside Out characters like all around her office and his office, and it has a lot of really cool stuff all around. So very, very cool.
So, yeah, those are recommendations for NAMI. Most of them I haven't seen, but
yeah, no, solid
there
stuff.
you go.
So, and we're always open to it, guys. If you want to tweet to us, Facebook us, or put it on Patreon, anytime you've seen a good film that you thought really captured in a quality way something true about mental health, always share it with us. And I'll tell you right now, there's an upcoming movie that I'm going to be scrutinizing like hell, and it's called The Joker. And it's just about Joker. And so they try to start, I could see from the trailers, they're trying to start it from depicting him just as a mentally ill guy on a bus. And they almost started off as like he's endearing. And I think they're going to work their way up to homicidal maniac. And it'll be very interesting to see sort of how that plays out.
I saw a meme that somebody did that they talked about how in the beginning, Joker was created by falling into acid.
Oh, that's
and then
right.
Now we've gotten to a point where Joker was created by society.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really well said. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I like the scrutiny, and I like that I think film is one of the most valuable windows we have into helping people kind of understand their reality. Oh, another one. Oh, gosh. This one was with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And, somebody's got to figure out this name. It's about sex addiction. It's about porn addiction. And in the movie, he's a young man who is dating, multiple people, but he cannot stop acting out sexually and acting out with pornography. And it's a really good and accurate kind of portrayal.
Batman Returns.
That's the one. Batman Returns with Danny DeVito and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It's about his sex addiction. So also a very good movie.
Yeah, actually another really... Another good one for alcoholism was Leaving Las Vegas.
I've never seen Leaving Las Vegas.
Great movie.
Is that one good?
Such a good movie.
I haven't seen that. That's not Fear and Loathing. That's a different one.
No, that's different.
Okay.
You know that because it's a different title.
Oh,
Yes.
is that what that means? Oh, that's how you can tell the difference. All right. So great question. We do want to thank our Patreons. This has been recorded in the past. So if you have become a new THERAPAL or THERAPOD, and we have not acknowledged it yet, we will definitely get you on the next show. But we do want to thank our mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Elite Eight. We would thank Ellie O'Dare, who actually just had to step out to get back to work. But we do want to thank Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint Chairman of the Board, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop Violon, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Bendon, and ex officio and present board member Ellie O'Dare.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy our spontaneous projects like fantasy football, go to podtherapy.com/therapy. Thank you for supporting mental health.
That's where I have to do something.
Yeah.
Cue.
That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by opening this episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided in your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
You want to submit a question for the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tanchman.
I'm addicted to the penguin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
I was just talking to my brother-in-law about how Danny DeVito has had one of the most versatile careers, and he's still killing it. 14 years that
Still
It's Always Sunny.
Great on Always Sunny, yeah.
Oh, he's so have you ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've only seen a couple episodes.
Man,
Yeah.
that is a solid show, and he is killing it on that show. Just his bits are
Is it
so
still
good.
running?
Oh,
yeah.
14
They just
years.
put a new season out.
Yeah,
Jeez.
they're still going on FX or FXX. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm told that it's continuing.